Hi, this is Ocean K with a detailed look at the A-14ADSR envelope generator. Now the A-14 is a standard envelope generator with 4 parameters: attack, decay, sustain, and release. Now if you're not terribly familiar with envelopes, here's how they work. Now when you play a note on the keyboard, there are a few signals that are sent, 2 of which are the note on and note off. So when you press a key, there's a note on signal, and then you release the key, and there's a note off signal. Without an envelope, when you press the key, the sound plays at full volume, and then you release the key and the sound immediately stops. But what if you want the sound to do anything else, like fade into full volume or fade out after you release the key? Well, then you use an envelope. The amount of time that it takes for the fade in to happen when you press the key is called the attack time, and that's what the attack knob sets, the length of time to fade into full velocity after you press the key. Now, without an envelope, the note you play stays at full volume until you release the note. Now, if you want the sound to fade into full volume and then fade down a little bit and sustain at a lower level, well, that's what decay and sustain control. The sustain is the level that you want the sound to fade down to and sustain at, and the decay is the amount of time it takes to fade down to that level. So if we bring that sustain down and the delay up, we hear that there's a fade in from the attack, and then a fade down from the decay, and then it sustained at the sustain level. Fade up, fade down, and then sustain. Now the sound stays at that level until you release the key. If you want the sound to fade out after you've released the key, you control that with release. Now just like how the attack is the time to fade up from silence, release is the time to fade down to silence after you release the note. So if we bring release up and attack, delay, and sustain, and it sustains at this level until we release, and now it fades down based on the time of the release. So that's what an ADSR envelope generator does. Now with the A-14ADSR, there are 3 speed ranges for envelopes. The short makes the maximum length of the attack, decay, and release are very short, which allows you to dial in very precise fade times. So for example, whereas the long range allows you to set fade times that are really long. Now at the maximum, the entire envelope can last for minutes. If I play a note, the attack takes a while. We haven't even gotten to the decay yet. Now we're getting to the decay, which is a short decay and at the sustain level. And now if I release the note, I'll release now. It's going to take a little while for that fade to completely fade out. Now the middle range is somewhere in between the short range and the long range. Now if we look at the back of the A-14ADSR, we can see how we hook this thing up. Now the gate in is where you send the signal, the gate signal. This is your note on and note off signal. If you're using the A-19SEQ module and controlling the A-Series with the reason sequencer or the MIDI keyboard, then you would just send one of the gate outs of the A-19SEQ to the gate in of the A-14ADSR. Now if you're using a rack sequencer like the Matrix, you'd hook up the Matrix gate out to the A-14ADSR gate in, and then the CV goes out to whatever you want. Now, we've been talking about envelopes controlling the volume contours of your sound, but envelopes can control anything. They can control EQ frequency sweeps, or EQ gains, or pitch bends, or LFO rates, or really anything you want. Now, if you do want to apply the envelope to the volume of notes, there's a special module called a VCA, or Voltage Control Amplifier, which, as the name implies, allows you to control the amplitude of a sound using a CV signal. Now, we happen to have a VCA in the A-Series right here, but that's covered in a different video, so we won't go over that now. Now, the only thing that's left on the back of this, on the back of the A-14ADSR are these CV-ins that each correspond to these front knobs. So there's attack, decay, sustain, and release. Now, if you've watched any other A-Series detail videos, you'll already know that every knob in the A-Series has dual functions. When there's nothing connected to the corresponding CV, then the knob on the front sets the static value, in this case the times of each envelope section. But when the corresponding CV is connected with something, then the incoming CV signal controls the value, and the corresponding knob on the front becomes a trim for that incoming CV signal. So in this case, you could have, let's say, an LFO controlling the attack fade-in time, and the attack knob then becomes a trim for that signal. So only a little bit of the signal comes through, or a lot of the signal comes through, or whatever you want. So that's the A-14ADSR envelope generator.